For the past 6 months, I haven't used any online entertainment by myself. So no TV, no social media, no video games, no nothing. And it has been a life-changing experience, but it is certainly not for the faint-hearted. So in this video, I'm just going to discuss my experience doing this, the pros of it, the cons, and what I'm going to do going forward. So let's start with the cons. What was the bad part about removing all online entertainment for the past 6 months? The first big one here is that I was kind of out of touch. I still am kind of out of touch. When I'm talking to a random person and they start talking about, oh, you know what Donald Trump said? No. Or what's happening in the wars right now? No. Oh, do you know what happened with this celebrity recently? No. Oh, what's happening with this influencer? How crazy is that? No idea. I don't really know what's going on in the world of politics, current affairs, celebrities, influencers, all of this crap, because I've been completely disconnected from it for the most part for the last 6 months. So when I'm talking to the average person about average things, I have no idea what's going on, basically, which is not great when it comes to just small talk about pretty easy topics. But what I've noticed is most of the time when we're talking with people, we try and go for the lowest hanging fruit. What is something that everyone kind of knows about? What is something that everyone's talking about that we can just, move our mouths and not really say much? And usually that's stuff like the politics and the current affairs and the celebrities and all that gossip crap. So yes, I'm out of touch, but what I've noticed is that all that happens is you start having more meaningful conversations. Because when you can't talk about politics, when you can't talk about the wars, when you can't talk about celebrities or influencers or any of that, is you actually start talking about interesting stuff, which is pretty good because you start actually getting to know a person a little better. You start getting into what do they want to do with their lives? What are they doing rather than what are all these other people in the world doing? So it becomes a lot more focused on you and the other person rather than just random people. So in some ways, it's actually a pro more than the con, to be honest, but I've definitely noticed that I am, for the average person, quite out of touch. The next one is that the days are pretty damn intense. The main reason for that is that when you have online entertainment, it's basically just an option for you to switch off your brain and just go into zombie mode and scroll or watch a TV or something like that. When you don't have any of that, what you'll notice is that your relaxation options are very, very limited. So you can basically meditate, you could read a book, which I would argue, the books I'm reading anyway are not all that relaxing. Or you could, for example, right now I'm learning Spanish. So you start playing Duolingo or listening to Spanish lessons. But all this stuff, except for meditation, is kind of demanding on your brain. There's nothing that you can really do to just switch your brain off and do nothing. So I found that the days are very intense. From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you're always kind of doing something meaningful, which is fantastic, but it is very intense. So the way I've been overcoming that is I've been trying to switch between mentally intense things and physically intense things. So for example, when I start the day, I have a block of work that I'll get done. And then about midday, when you're feeling a bit fatigued, it's like, okay, I've been frying my brain by just, working. Let me take a break to do some physically challenging activity. Because even though it's a challenging activity, it's a different kind of challenging. So maybe you go and do a workout or you do a run or zone 2 cardio, something like that. But some way to mix it up. So you go from mentally demanding to physically demanding. And then after you've had your physically demanding thing, you can just go back to mentally demanding. But it is always in some way demanding. It's quite intense. Like the days are very, very intense. So there's not a whole lot of relaxation and downtime. And the reality is that's fantastic because you're always growing, but growing is painful. The issue is right now, most of us are finding pain from distracting ourselves all day when we're scrolling, when we're consuming this online entertainment. We're basically just distracting ourselves from what we really need to do. And all that happens is you get the short-term pleasure, but you have the long-term pain of not achieving any of your goals, not actually becoming the person you want to become. And that's the pain of suffering passively. Whereas when you're doing this, it's more of the pain of suffering actively, which is in your face at all times. It's like, this is challenging. Okay, stop doing this, do another challenging thing. Okay, we can stop that and do another challenging thing. So it's all really demanding and really intense. So that's why I say it's not for the faint of heart, because you do have to in some way be progressing forward. Either that or you're just, staring at a wall doing nothing. And in fairness, you can do things like, hanging out with your mates. It's not as if there's zero relaxing things that you can do, but in terms of relaxing things that you can do that are very easily accessible, the options are very, very limited. So things like seeing your friends, hanging out, that kind of requires a little bit of preparation. You can't just put your phone in your pocket and, start scrolling straight away. So there's just a little bit more friction between some completely, chilling out activity. Real quick, if you would like to reach peak performance, I've left no stone unturned to giving you everything you need, including an entire course on how to remove online entertainment from your life completely without requiring willpower. So if that is interesting to you, I'll leave a link in the description below. So those are the cons, and honestly, they're half cons because there are pros to those cons. But what are the big pros? What are the big benefits that I've gotten out of this 6 months of no online entertainment? The first pro is speed of growth. If you looked at the amount of progression you get towards any of your goals over this 6-month period, if you compare it to where you would have been if you had included a bunch of online entertainment, it would be significantly quicker when you've removed everything. And the reason for that is that you just have less things that you're doing. And the things that you are doing are in some way moving you towards your goals. So the amount of time between setting a goal and achieving it just gets shrunk so significantly because you're spending so much time moving in some way towards a goal. The speed of growth, the speed at which you get the outcomes that you desire is incredibly quick. And that's when I talked about how you have the short-term pleasure with the long-term pain of not achieving your goals. It's kind of the opposite here, where there's just short-term constant pain because you're constantly growing, you're constantly doing challenging things. But it's very rewarding because you're constantly achieving goals, and you're achieving goals really, really quickly. So you're just accelerating the timeline between a goal that you would like to achieve and actually achieving it, which is just, it's great to see, because when you sit back and you look at what you've accomplished, for example, over the course of a year, you can say, wow, I've actually got an insane amount done. And on the day-to-day, you can't really see much of a difference, but when you take a step back, you go, holy crap, I've achieved a lot. Next one is focus. I mean, I've just been really, really, really focused. And it's not really any surprise, because when you're constantly using online entertainment, you're basically giving yourself dopamine, feeling really good for doing something immediate and short term, especially things like scrolling, where it's just 1 to 2 second little pieces of dopamine, is you're constantly rewarding your brain for doing easy short term things. And this is going to destroy your focus and attention span. When you eliminate all of this, you now have so much more focus. You can concentrate on tasks for a longer period of time. So not only are you always doing things that are moving you towards your goals, but you can concentrate on them and focus on them better and for longer periods. So this again is going to accelerate the period of growth. But the focus and attention that you get out of this is probably one of the most profound benefits that I've found. Next one is better time allocation. So people say, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that all the time. Time was never the problem. The problem was how you were allocating your time. Unless you have a job that requires you to be in the office for 12, 14 hours a day, then time is probably not the limiting factor. Even then, what are you doing on your weekends? What are you doing on that time you have off? You're probably not doing the things that are going to move you towards your goals. When you have removed online entertainment, which for the most part is not moving you in any way towards your goals, you have a huge chunk of time back that you have to allocate somehow. And now the easier things to do are actually things that are moving you towards your goals, because when you don't have the option of, I'll just watch some TV, I'll just scroll some social media, when your easiest option is like, I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to learn Spanish, or I'm going to do a workout, right? When those are your best, most exciting options, you're just allocating your time a lot better. And the reality is, over the course of a year, the person who makes the most progress is the person who can most effectively allocate their time. So when you have removed the ability to poorly allocate your time, you just by definition, by average, allocate your time better. And the better you allocate your time, the better your results are actually going to be. So better time allocation was pretty damn huge. Next pro is that your work becomes more enjoyable. Because you're not receiving all this immediate dopamine, quick stimulation, quick fire hits all the time, what happens is your brain realizes that your dopamine that you're receiving is a lot lower. So it has to counteract that and balance it out by bringing up your dopamine levels. And now the only things that you're really receiving dopamine from is things like working, things like exercising, things like learning, things that are in some way moving you towards your goals, which now by definition makes them an enjoyable task. You're receiving dopamine from doing them. They're going to start feeling good. And when they start feeling good, you're more likely to do them. And if you're more likely to do those activities, you're more likely to progress and get better, which is just fantastic. But actually doing work that you know you have to do, but rather than it being a tedious task, you actually enjoy doing it. That's going to make your day significantly more enjoyable rather than, waking up and then scrolling, because that feels great. And then thinking, yeah, I guess I got to do that work. All right, let's do that. This is going to suck for a few hours. But then after that, I can play some video games and feel really good. And then, I have to do a workout, but I'm going to hate that. But that's okay. After that, I'll watch some Netflix. Rather than getting your enjoyment out of the little cheap dopamine you get intermittently throughout the day, you get your enjoyment from the difficult tasks, from the hard things, and you're making the difficult work enjoyable, which is fabulous. And finally, you're just more appreciative of the day. I mean, when we talk about how the dopamine levels increase overall for everything, that just means that everything is a little more enjoyable. Going outside for a walk is more enjoyable. Seeing the sunset is more enjoyable. Talking to friends is more enjoyable. Every single little part of your life is more enjoyable. And I definitely notice that. Even when I go out for a morning walk, I'm just more appreciative of the day. I actually just quite enjoy the little things in the day. So that is just pretty nice. The grass is greener, the sun is sunnier. Every single little part of your day is just a little better, which is just obviously fantastic. So what is my plans going forward? What do I plan to do now that I've run this 6-month experiment of no online entertainment? Well, my plan is to double down. I'm not stopping. I don't really see a reason to stop. Being out of touch about common things to the common man, don't really care about that. And having really intense days, to be honest, that's probably a good thing when I look at it over the long run. So the cons there, hardly even cons. The pros just absolutely blow everything else out of the water. I feel better. I enjoy doing difficult tasks. I allocate my time a lot better. I have way better focus. All of this stuff is just so worth the small, tiny cons you get. And of course, this is hard, but it's not really hard for me anymore. I've gone through the hard phase of removing all the addictions, getting all of the cheap dopamine out. So now I'm kind of smooth sailing. Now it's just, I'll just keep going. This is just my new baseline, my new normal. Why would I stop now? Now is the easiest time where you get the most benefits, because the reality is it's no longer challenging, but I'm continuing to get the outsized returns from being able to allocate my time better, from enjoying doing difficult things, from growing quicker. I'm getting all the benefits, but it's no longer super challenging. So I'm going to continue running this. I don't really see myself ever stopping this, to be honest. I mean, that's a bold statement to make after 6 months, but I really don't see any reason to stop. This has been a truly life-changing experience. It's been difficult. It's been challenging. It's getting easier, and the results completely outweigh all those little cons. So that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, if you are maybe contemplating to start removing a bit of online entertainment, let me know about it. If you like the video, please like it. Subscribe to this channel. There's probably a video somewhere around here that you might be interested in, so I'll see you in one of those.